Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the 2020 podcast, Canada's #1 optometry podcast. I am your host, Dr. Kambiz Silani. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me here, as always, guys, to learn and to grow. I always appreciate the time, the support. I know there's a million things you could be doing, so the fact that you're here with us right now means so much to me. Don't forget, you could be watching this on YouTube. You could be listening on Apple, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts. You can find all the previous episodes. And as always, I have a big request right off the top. If you get some value from this conversation, please do share it with a friend, put it up on the snapshot on Instagram, or send a link to your friend, put it on LinkedIn. This is going to be such an amazing conversation. I'm so excited to have the one and only Dr. Kambiz Silani. Dr. Kambiz Silani from Beverly Hills Optometry and Advanced Dry Eye Center. The dry eye guru. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see it says it next to his name. If you don't know Cam, then I don't know where you've been hiding. But if you don't know Cam, he is really one of the most well-known, well-renowned names in optometry and eye care, specifically now in dry eye. But he started his practice doing a whole bunch of other stuff: primary care, vision therapy, peds, specialty contact lens. But the dry eye center has blown up, and so he's really become one of the biggest names in that space. He is really one of the most well-known KOLs and speakers in optometry. He himself, his practice, have been on all sorts of TV outlets, the Doctor Show, TV, on magazines, Newsweeks, one of the top doctors in the country. All these amazing things. I could go on with all these accolades for days. But Cam, I'm just so happy to have you on the show, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, bud. Really long time coming, and honored to be here.
It is a long time coming, man. Every time I see you at Expo or whatever, we're like, okay, we're gonna do it now. We're gonna do it, and I don't know how. Of all people, I don't know how I've let this slide for so long. Honestly, it's a shame, and it's a knock on me for just not making it happen sooner. And I'm really glad we're doing it now, man. I'm really glad.
We're further in our careers. We have more to talk about.
Sure, we do. I know there's one episode's not going to be enough, but we're going to try to pack as much quality content in this episode as we can. So make sure you stick through it, listen to the whole thing. You might want to go back and take notes, because we're going to talk about how Cam built his insane, dry eye excellence center with all the high-tech dry eye technology, how he's become a master of marketing, and how he's become one of the most renowned names in KOL and speaking, and just personally how he's developed. We're going to try to pack all of that into this one episode, and if we can't get it all in, we'll do another one. But Cam, let's start with how, where you are now. Just introduce us to who you are right now, what your day-to-day life looks like.
Yeah, so most recently just became a father. We have a 15-month-old at home, and we have another one on the way. So we're going to have 2 boys.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
2 boys under 2, 18 months apart. So
amazing.
The first part of my professional career was just focused on practice life and travel and my relationship with my amazing wife. And, our practice has evolved now 11 and a half years in. On a day-to-day basis for the last 5 years or so, it's been exclusively dry eye patients. And it's been incredible helping these patients both locally in our community here in LA, as well as those that come from out of state. In fact, we had, I think it was 6 patients last month that were from out of state. So
wow. That's awesome.
We really hold ourselves to a high standard. And I think patients have seen that, and they either find us through social media, their current doctors who refer them to us, or through academia.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, well, once you've built that reputation, people are willing to travel for sure. Like even I have patients who maybe they're kind of on both sides of that. Either patients that I'm looking to refer out, they're like, I will drive wherever. Just let me know who is the expert in this space. Like if there's something I don't offer, or I've kind of got to the end of my area of expertise or my level of expertise in the area, they're willing to drive or fly if they really are suffering and they need the help. So it's amazing that people have been finding you. What is it like practicing in Beverly Hills? I'm sure lots of people are wondering.
Yeah, we've certainly interacted with a lot of high-profile individuals, folks that you see on the Emmys and on the Academy Awards.
Can you drop some names? Are you allowed to?
We can, because we've taken photos with some of them, but some amazing folks like Colin Farrell.
Wow. Awesome.
Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins? Get out.
He's played a big impact in my life, and
no doubt,
because of our one-on-one interaction, I've actually gone to probably half dozen of his live events as his personal guest, and worked on a lot of personal development and relationship stuff and business mastery. So a lot of great skill sets that I pulled from some of the things that he's done in his his world and his
No
space.
kidding. That's incredible. I didn't know Tony Robbins was on that list. That's kind of the top of the top right there. There's not many names you could drop that are bigger than that, to be honest. Like there are some, but like that's near the top of the list for sure. That's huge. And so you've, what is it like? What's he like in person? Does he have the same kind of like, is he the same kind of boisterous person as he is on stage and in his shows?
Yeah, he's definitely a huge presence.
Yeah. He's a big man too, right?
He's definitely a large fella, and but big heart. I mean, he just kindness like you couldn't imagine, and that's been his philosophy is spreading love and growth and that pursuit of constant and never-ending improvement, which I've really tried to bring into my world, but also the folks that I've touched, whether it's patients or our fantastic team.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. Very cool. Very cool. So, if somebody has been following you and they kind of know where you're at, and it's pretty amazing, you have this incredible high-tech practice. We can talk about some of the stuff that you have in your practice, but I'd love to, if you could share some insight, because I think there's going to be overlap. Now, this is not just for dry eye, and obviously you're the big dry eye guy, right? But anybody who's listening who's like, oh, I'm not really into dry eye, or maybe they got a bit of dry eye fatigue, because I know it was like, there was a lot of dry eye content on the speaking circuit and stuff for a couple of years. But like, what insights can you share about what it takes to build a specialty practice in general, right? Because as I mentioned off the top, you were, dabbling, or you're really into all these different things, but then dry eye really took off for you. Maybe for me, it might be myopia control. Maybe somebody else, it might be vision therapy. I think there's a lot of overlap in like your mindset and the changes that you had to make in your practice. So can you tell us, like, what does it take to build a super specialized, high-tech practice?
Well, we've had to evolve it over and over again and reinvent ourselves. And that's been the most fun is, okay, how can we make this better? Where do we start, but how can we continue to make this better? And technology has played a big role. We continue to bring in devices on the diagnostic and therapeutic side that may make our practice stickier, and patients love it because they go, what's Dr. Silani going to bring in this year? And when I was leaving to Vision Expo, they were asking me, please bring back as much information as possible. We want to hear at our next treatment visit what you're doing, what's new, what's different. And first and foremost, you have to have that passion and compassion. My journey with dry eye started because I personally have suffered with dry eye and have for 20 plus years. And we can get into my personal health story a little later if you like.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
My journey started with Restasis and over-the-counter drops and steroids and other pharmaceuticals. And about 12 years ago, my first introduction to dry eye in-office procedures to address more of the root cause and take a more holistic approach was with BlephX, our handheld micro blepharal exfoliation device. And so from there, it just cascaded to a point where now we will be offering 17 various dry eye treatments that patients can seek us out. So,
17.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, okay, how many do I have? And I could probably count it on one hand, right? So 17 is crazy.
Yeah, so we have.
And I feel like I got a few toys, I got to spend some money on some stuff. 17's a lot.
And by no means do you need to have all of those, but for us, we do speak for a lot of companies. So some of that is, okay, Dr. Silani, we want you to have this device and let us know what your thoughts are, share feedback, maybe do some small studies, share content on social media. And but many of those are devices that we utilize on a day-to-day, week-to-week, or monthly basis. And so I will customize patient treatment plans based off of what their findings are, what their diagnosis is. And sometimes these patients have come to us and they've tried what they think is everything. And they're being referred to us because we do practice at a very, very high level. And maybe that referring office, whether it's an OD or MD, may not have all the technologies that they feel a patient needs. And so then that's when they access our office.
Yeah. Well, I imagine most people don't have that much technology, right? So even those who are like practicing dry eye at a pretty high level, I mean, I'm sure in the top 0.1% or whatever the correct percentage and ratio is, because like I know a lot of dry eye people, really great doctors, but I don't think anybody, or very, very, very few of them have that much technology, that many toys.
And it's funny because in my mind, oh, everyone does this at that level.
Yeah, no,
Talk to
that's not the
industry
case.
or talk to colleagues and go, oh no, we don't, we
Yeah.
don't do that. And
There's
that's
just,
what I want
there's
to do
always
is
another level, right? But until you get to your level, then I don't know if there's another level after that. But like for everybody else, there's another level. Uh, when it comes to like, you said you started off kind of doing all these different things. You love peds, you love specialty contacts. Where was it? Was there, do you remember now? First of all, actually, let me rewind even further. 12 years ago, you said you started with BlephX and kind of really diving into dry eye. That's very early in the dry, because dry eye really became sexy about like 4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah.
right? And before that, if you're doing dry eye, it was kind of like, well, that's weird. Like, here's an eye drop.
It's a nuisance. In the past, it was seen as, or a lot of ophthalmologists still, it's like, oh, this patient has dry eye.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we just want to recommend just over-the-counter lubricating drops, but there's more to it than that.
Of course. No, of course. There's just so much more, so much more. So first of all, I want to congratulate you, give you credit on that. You were way ahead of the curve. The other thing is, let's go back to before that. And you were just sort of like, you like peds, you like specialty contact lens, you love primary practice, primary care. Where was it? Do you remember a turning point? Do you remember a point where you're like, wow, I'm seeing a lot of dry eye. I should lean into this. Do you remember that? And what did that, like, how did you make that choice to lean into it?
I felt like I was doing a really good job mastering the primary eye care space. And I realized a lot of these patients kept complaining of vague symptoms. My eyes feel itchy, my eyes feel watery, my eyes feel blurry, or I'm having fluctuating vision. And I felt like we weren't doing enough for these patients. And there was really an unmet need. A lot of folks would come to us, you're our fifth doctor I've seen, and they can't figure out what's going on. And we'll go through properly identifying, diagnosing, and putting together a customized treatment plan. And they go, wow, we've never had this level of care. And I figured, this might be something that we can really tap into. And it's helped me. And I'm always patient number one for most of these treatments, whether it's LipiFlow, IPL, radiofrequency, BlephX, of course, and others. And so we said, hey, let's kind of double down and move in that direction and see what we can do. And what parts of eye care can you say, oh, we have an ophthalmologist, an oculoplastic surgeon, a LASIK surgeon, a cataract surgeon, a retina surgeon that's referring to a dry center. Wow. And of course, we have rheumatologists, primary care doctors, endocrinologists, cardiologists, et cetera, that all refer to us, and plastic surgeons that refer to us.
That's incredible.
And just last week, we continue to see her for her dry eyes, and she's a very prominent plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills. So
really,
she's referred a lot of her high-profile patients to us. So it's really an amazing space to be in, because these patients, like we talked about earlier, will travel long distances. But they come in, and we hopefully can restore their hope.
Yeah. So there's a lot of dry eye patients who have lost hope, and they're struggling. That's a reason why, I don't know, this is going to sound bad, I suppose, but it's not meant to be. But this is a reason why a lot of optometrists, doctors, MDs, whoever, don't deal with dry eye a lot, because there is a lot of the emotional side component to it, right? It requires a lot of empathy. Not to say our colleagues don't have it, right? But it does require that, and it takes the time and the hand holding and the trial and error in some cases, like, okay, this didn't work for you, and let us do this thing. And it is a lot of effort in that. It's not simply like some of our other areas of expertise. It's like, here's a treatment, it works, boom, done, next, on to the next thing. With dry eye, I feel like there's a lot more of that hand holding that's required, and not everybody wants to do that.
And for me, it's been sexy because every year there seems to be a new drop, a new device. There seems to be a lot of research and development, or R&D in the space. There seems to be a lot of love in the space as well. So a lot of the colleagues that are in the space for dry eye, very open with sharing what devices we're using, what outcomes we're getting, wanting to talk about what's new, what's hot, what are you up to?
Right.
And I like that. They're very open. In fact, I was talking to Dr. Silani, who's the founder of Rinsada, which is one of the more recent things that we've brought in as a treatment for patients.
Yep.
New devices. And he said how friendly optometrists, especially in the dry space, are, and how that may not always be the case as a retina specialist, because that's really where his specialty is. And a lot of them don't like to share ideas, whereas we're in that space to continue to grow and expand and evolve and help as many patients as we can.
100%. We're going to go out. I'm going to step on my soapbox here for just a second. But before that, I'm going to just put the pin in something so I don't forget, which is I want to go back to developing those relationships for referrals with other specialists or other professionals. But to your point here about the collaborative nature of certain aspects of our profession, I think it's super, super important. And I harp on this all the time. So people who listen to podcasts regularly have heard me do this before, but collaboration is like so important, especially right now. They're so important for us to refer to our own colleagues and to fill in the gaps of the care that maybe we cannot provide. Because if we don't fill those gaps in, somebody else is going to kind of fill that gap in, and we might not like who that person is or that company or that entity is that's coming to fill that gap or take that portion of our profession. It's very important that we work together, we stay tight knit, and we collaborate, and we build strong relationships. It's only going to be for the benefit of our whole profession. And then, eventually trickle down effect, and individuals will benefit from that as well. But if we start to get too competitive and closed off and hold things close to the chest, eventually it's going to start to get segmented, and we're going to create space for disruptors and other entities to come in and push the profession in directions that we may not want. So I'm going to step off my soapbox now.
You bring up a really good point. In the beginning, we brought on a lot of different specialties, but now we don't really do vision therapy at a high level. And I have colleagues in the LA area who do a fantastic job, so I'd rather refer them out. When we were looking for an associate, as one of my top docs went on maternity leave, I was referring some of those scleral lens specialty patients out. We were taking some of these myopia management patients out because I really wanted to focus heavily on the dry eye space, and some of these folks had to wait 3-6 months to be seen for other reasons. And so we're like, hey, let's get used to somebody who's practicing at a high level in those other specialties.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I put the pin in the referrals. So we're going to come back to that now. I've heard that, and I've seen that myself. It's extremely valuable, if not maybe necessary, to build when you're building a specialty practice, to have outside referrals from other professionals, right? So whether that's other ODs or MDs, like you said, it can be rheumatologists, it could be whoever, GPs. If you're in myopia management, maybe it's a pediatrician, maybe it's a family doctor. How do you go about building those relationships? Like, do you remember when you started doing it? Because I can share a little bit on my side as well, but like, you're at such a high level. I think, there's some really valuable information you may be able to share on how you built those relationships.
Putting yourself out there, going to dinners. Early on, when I first started the practice, I was doing everything, just funnels, right? So creating click funnels in marketing. I would go to Chamber of Commerce meetings. We had a restaurant next door that we would give our business cards to and our pamphlets to, and for to-go orders, they would actually put those in the bags. We would go to a lot of these industry dinners where they're speaking about dry eye topics and talking to other doctors. What's your specialty? Where do you practice? What are you interested in? And I let these doctors know, if you have difficult dry eye patients, we're happy to take them on. I'll spend an hour and a half for each dry eye consultation, initial visit consultation, because to your point earlier, a lot of them come in with a lot of just their brain chemistry isn't quite there, right? There are a lot of mental blocks. They feel depressed. They feel anxious. They feel, some of them suicidal, unfortunately, because their condition can be so debilitating. Many have stopped working, wear sunglasses indoors, can't be on the computer for more than 5 minutes or a digital device. So my heart really goes out to these folks, and we want to restore that hope and bring them back in. So we're trying to market to colleagues now. For those who may refer ones or twos, we'll send a thank you letter, or we'll send a little thank you or holiday gift basket. We will host dinners, and remember to invite, whether it's a talk I'm giving, remember to invite them. Texting back and forth, sending letters, reports is a big way if a doctor takes a chance on you. We also like to emphasize that they can refer their patients to me. They can text me anytime, and then we'll have our team reach out as far as concierge status to book their patients. Just like you would with a LASIK patient. If you're going to refer them out, you'll let their surgical coordinator know, I'm sending Mrs. Smith. She'd like to come in for a LASIK consult. Would you mind reaching out to her? And so the same thing in this case, let us know who that patient is, what their needs are. And so that way we handle their dry eye needs and then send them back for glasses, contacts, glaucoma, retina care, et cetera.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. So I think there's a lot of really helpful points in there and how you develop those relationships. Thankfully, for me, I appreciate you're giving me some confidence that I'm doing actually some of the right things here, because there's a few things on the list you just read off there. I check. I'm like, yes, check. Okay, cool. We do that. Yeah, we did that. So it feels like I'm on the right track. Yes, excellent. So yeah, I know. And recently we did something, and I saw another one of our great colleagues out in Toronto, Dr. Amrit Bilku. She kind of posted that she did something similar, which is like, we went out to, I think it was maybe a dozen offices, optometry clinics, sort of in short distance, I don't know, you might say 5-kilometer radius or something like that, 10-kilometer radius, the driving distance, handed out some nice treats and a nice letter and card, kind of just saying thanks for if you've already referred, or if you're looking to refer, and really hitting on some of the same points that you were saying, where we're just here to take care of this, right? We want the patient to come back to you to take care of all the other things. We'll make sure they come back to you for everything else, but we want to be here to kind of so not everybody has this technology or offers this treatment. Like, we can be that person. Just, going back to my point about collaboration, we can help fill the gap for you there. Person comes back to you for the rest. But I think, like you said, going to dinners, chamber events, things like that, you really got to start to put yourself out there, so people can see you more.
Something else I forgot to mention is I had co-founded, before the pandemic, we haven't done this as much, a group where we had a bunch of different doctors and different specialties get together for really fun dinners. And so I would handpick those select restaurants. Usually they're high-end restaurants and
of course,
hot spots. And so it'd be great to have 10, 15 doctors, usually the same core folks. And then from time to time, we'd invite 1 or 2 doctors that were outside the group to come visit. And this was just a great way face-to-face to get together. And then during COVID, we moved that into like a WhatsApp group message. And it was really fun because we got to share ideas and notes as far as branding, marketing. How are you making changes during the height of the pandemic? What pain points do you have? What can we do to improve things? I got, somebody posted, I got this one bad review. What do you guys suggest I do? Or how do I respond? So doing things at even that level has been really helpful for the group. And so you can do that in any city. It doesn't have to just be Beverly Hills.
That's excellent. Excellent suggestion. So I might have to reach out to you offline to see how you put that all together. And I think I'm going to encourage anybody else who's listening, watching, who wants to learn more, maybe reach out to Cam and see if he can give you some advice on creating that kind of group locally. I think it's really important to have that bond with your colleagues for sure. So you touched a little bit on marketing as well. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about marketing. Any other like highlights or important things you want to share that marketing wise were helpful to help build your practice?
Yeah, social media has been a big one for us. So your presence on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, a lot of these are free platforms that you can really create a voice for yourself and continue to echo your brand and your practice. So just putting fun videos up, educational videos up, call to action videos up can all be really powerful. Creating partnerships with other businesses in the area can also be helpful. So, you might have a patient who cancels that day. You have a hour block, just walk around the neighborhood, hand out cards. And it doesn't have to be to healthcare offices. It could be really to any, we've gone and given out information to places that do your lashes, right? And so those patients can develop allergic reactions and have blepharitis and Demodex. And so that can be a really powerful place. What else have we done that's been really powerful? What we had talked about kind of offline is how to present yourself to industry. I think it's a really powerful place. Just let them know that you're available and interested in a certain topic, and building your CV and resume in that space will be really, really helpful to get these companies to want to collaborate and partner together. We had the pleasure of working with Luminous very recently, and they had our poster at the Javits Center Vision Expo.
I saw that
last year, and that was really an honor, and felt really humbled to be doing that with them. We had the pleasure of working with Johnson & Johnson on a few different projects. Get comfortable with writing. I think writing a piece that you're passionate about, and then maybe just presenting that to some of the different optometry platforms, whether it's Review of Optometry, Modern Optometry, Optometric Management. Putting yourself out there, I think taking risks. And funny, growing up, I was actually more of an introvert. And
That's
I've
funny.
had to come outside of that and become uncomfortable. And now moving into the uncomfortable has made me comfortable by having these talks and these conversations. And I've always appreciated more of the one-on-one, whether it's in the exam room or these kinds of podcasts or doing webinars. But I always get such joy out of doing these larger in-person talks, because colleagues will say, I remember that, this was 3 years ago. This happened at Vision Expo this past last week, where a doctor was saying, I started my dry eye center of excellence because of a talk you gave.
Wow.
Another one had said, I called your office to just ask you a few questions, and you actually called me back and gave me some advice. So
amazing.
I try to be, time is our biggest asset, but I try to be as available as I can to colleagues that really have a passion and are interested in this space.
That's so powerful. That's so impactful, right? So somebody remembers that. I'm sure, I would remember that too. If you took the time out to call me back and share your insights, that's so helpful. And it's pretty amazing that people remember that, and they'll come back to you and tell you, remind you or let you know that how helpful it was for them. So, interesting. You made a transition here. You had a little segue, which I think is perfect and natural. And something I wanted to talk about anyways was marketing yourself towards industry. So we're starting off talking about how we market towards the public, how we bring in new patients. And you kind of segued into marketing into industry. And if you want to kind of get into that, build yourself a bit more of a presence in the industry. And I want to spend a bit of time on that, because I think that's super helpful. You are, like I was saying in the beginning, one of the most well-renowned people in our profession, in the industry, specifically in dry eye, but like really in general. You've really built yourself a great presence in our industry. You're one of the, you're a busy speaker. You do dinner talks, you do presentations, you do lectures, all these things. So I've had people ask me to kind of give my own 2 cents in this little area and then try to build on it here. People ask me like, oh, okay, how does you doing these lectures or going to these conferences, how does that help your practice? And well, that's not directly what I'm trying to do when I do those things. Or the podcast, for example, how does that help your practice? It's really got a different direction, but it does have an offshoot in that it helps you create, build yourself up as sort of an expert in the space, as a authority is actually the right word in eye care, right? And so if your patients happen to see your content, like I went to your website and you have your CV on there, so you have it there for patients to see too, right? So patients can see this guy spoke at all these conferences, and he's authored all these articles, and he's been all these outlets and all these kinds of things. He must be an authority in the space, and that helps to build confidence before people even come to see you in your practice. So that's one thing. Now I want to go to the other side. I tell people this, when I started the podcast, I started it for sort of selfish reasons, which was this, like I wanted to build more of a presence for myself in the industry. And I had to, like you said, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Like, who am I to do a podcast? Who am I to say, oh, I'm here to share information with you, or, whatever. But like, I started doing it. And of course it's helped me kind of create that presence for myself. But that quickly changed. Once I started to have a bit of a platform, I realized that I could use the platform to help my colleagues to really grow, and I could help the profession to be stronger. And that's actually my number one driver now. That's what I'm passionate about with the podcast. When I have you, Cam, on the podcast, I know for sure, even if one person listens, that one person is guaranteed going to get value and walk away and be better for it. If 100 people listen or 1,000 people listen, I know it's quality. It's going to make the profession better. So that's the number one thing that drives me now. So I want to get into a little bit of like, how did you become the presence that you have? How did you build the presence that you have working with industry, with companies, and doing all these things? Can you remember a few little pieces of information of how you got there that you could share with people who are listening now?
One of my philosophies in the practice and in life, professionally, is patient education and empowerment, as well as colleague education and empowerment. So I can only impact so many patients in the office in a one-on-one setting, but if I'm able to help that other doctor elevate his standard of care and do more in his space, whether it's in Colorado or Texas or Montana, I'm not only impacting my patients here locally, but I'm helping to impact those doctors, their practice, their patients. And as we've mentioned earlier, it's just fun to be able to see how we impact folks at a micro level and at a macro level. And I think industry sees that when you're when you're kind, when you're respectful, when you bring gratitude, when there's that mutual, I want to help you, you can help me grow.
Yeah.
That resonates with them, and word gets around. So everyone I talk to, I say, yeah, I'm gonna meet Harbir at a talk or dinner. I'm gonna be on his podcast. Everyone has nothing but amazing things to say about you, and
Thank you.
it's a big, it says a lot about your character. And if you're gonna do things, come with authenticity, and do it because you want to, not because it's forced necessarily. And I think that charisma comes off. And talking to a lot of these celebrities that we see as patients or high net worth individuals, that's what I see, is that you see why they're famous, why that they've done so well in life, is because it's just who they are. It's not that you're trying so much. It's that this is who I want to be. And it's the whole self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
If you believe it and you have faith that it will come, and just keep putting yourself out there. That's the most important advice, is take the risk. When I started the practice 11 and a half years ago, it was the grind. I was working 6 days a week. I was seeing patients 6 days a week. My wife would come in. At the time, she was my girlfriend. She would come in on Saturdays to spend time with me.
Wow. That's amazing.
After 6 years of doing that, we were able to kind of pull back and go down to 5 days a week, enjoy a weekend, go down to 4 days a week in patient care. And I still do a lot from home, working on the practice, not so much working in the business, but also on the business aspect.
Right.
But the patient care side, we've been able to bring down to 4 days a week from 6 days, and we've continued year over year to do better.
That's amazing. So, some of the things you're saying there, I think so key. Number one, the authenticity piece, it's something that I'm constantly working on myself. And I think anytime you lead with that, it makes everything so much better and easier in a certain way. Cause you're not putting on a facade or a face. And, I've phrased it this way before. When you can get, I don't know if there's like an end goal of like, I am the most authentic version of myself today. Like I've managed it. I hit 100%. I don't know if that's ever true, but it's something that you're always working towards, right? You're always working toward becoming more and more authentic and real. But the better you get at it, what I realize is you use less energy trying to be something else. And that energy is then used to just give to other people. Like when you're having interaction, now that energy is now used in that interaction to make that experience and that conversation better. And that's that intangible, I feel like, energy that people have, is like, wow, that person made me feel better. They have such great energy. And I think it starts from being authentic, because you're not soaking up all the energy to be something you're not. You actually have it to give and to create that bond. I think it's huge. So I think the authenticity is key.
Coming from a place of removing ego, I think, is really important. So the reason why I spend so much time with some of these patients or on some of these consulting calls, is because I want to provide as much value as possible. Yeah. And something I forgot to mention in the practice that's been really important is bringing on a really great team. So be able to delegate, hand things off, so that way you can focus on high level tasks. And so I'm so proud that my wife has been able to hire and train a lot of our current team. And I feel like we're able to give that Ritz-Carlton white glove experience. And
wow, love that.
Patients have been really just blown away with what we've done. And that's something, a big takeaway is, as you're focusing on a successful practice, is those patients have to have trust in your people, in your products or services, and in the practice brands. So remember the big 3 Ps, I think, is really key to continue to thrive.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Now, one of the other things, because I feel like we're moving on a little quickly. These a couple of different topics we've talked about, we easily could have gone into much deeper. And like I said, we probably have to have you come back on and talk more deeply about some of them. But I want to talk, you're at the forefront of all the, like, especially in dry eye, like all the technology and, you're speaking on all these different things, what's up and coming, eye drops and all these things, medications, pharmaceutical agents. What do we have? What's coming up that's exciting you right now in the dry eye space? And then like, as like an additional thing that we can kind of like segue into, where do you think AI fits into all of this? So maybe we could start with like, or if it integrates right away, you could just jump right in, but talk maybe a couple of products or pieces of tech that are coming up that you're super excited about. But then let's talk a little bit where you think AI fits in.
So one of the big pain points for a lot of colleagues in the industry, in any specialty of medicine, is the documentation side. So there's some great platforms that are voice activated now. And so they'll take that information that you're dictating verbally, and as you're talking to the patient, they'll put it into SOAP notes. So that's really powerful. And then there's a platform called Barty, which is a new EMR system. It's still in its early stages, but they're really working to be that foundational AI system where others can plug into. So they have great potential. CSI.
I gotta give it. Hang on, sorry, 1 second. I gotta give a shout out to the Barty crew because I don't use their stuff. I don't know that much about it, but I've had a couple of calls with them, right? But they're the ones who always have a party at their booth, and they're always wearing like bright pink something, bright sunglasses. Yeah, it's always, when you're walking by the Barty booth. Because I think oh shoot, I can't remember his name now, but he was dressed like in like a pink cowboy suit or something. What was he dressed in?
Colton's one of the great co-founders over there, but they had this one Iron Man
yes.
And they were so nice because they had one left on the last day, and they knew that I have a 1-year-old, and so they were like, "We're going to save this one for you," even though there were a ton of other doctors that stopped by the booth. But yeah, I love some of these companies that are really trying to shake up the industry and really push us forward, and make things easier for us, improve our efficiency and processes. And talking to co-founders and companies that are listening and have an open ear and are okay with that platform. We were very integral in patient pops development early on, where they're just a platform that was helping to build websites and market doctors. And I was an early investor, and they've now transitioned on to become a new company called Tebra. So they've done a fantastic job in the space, not so much necessarily for AI, but as far as building your presence online, getting you to the first page of Google, helping with your SEO, search engine optimization, helping with your online marketing, SEM, helping with reputation, getting more reviews and having patients share their experiences, whether positive or negative, so you can work on the negative and double down on the positive. Something that we've been utilizing, Weave has been a great platform for text patients, HIPAA compliant platform. CSI Dry Eye has been a fantastic device that uses technology software that's used machine learning and AI to help improve upon your dry eye treatment protocols. And so you can kind of plug in subjective, objective findings, and it gives you an idea of, okay, this might be potential differential diagnoses, and these could be treatment plans you can think about. And so we started to use that a lot, and then creating reports. Some of these diagnostic devices that you can utilize in the office. I was talking to Bruder. They have one called BOSA. I think it's the Bruder Ocular Surface Analyzer that they have, that uses AI to help show how patients are doing from visit to visit. So a lot of really amazing tools that are available now or in the pipeline. So an exciting time to be in space.
No doubt. Again, like I was saying, like, I think myself included, I feel like I got a bit of dry eye fatigue, and that like just every lecture was about dry eye. I was giving lectures on dry eye, you know what I mean? Like there was a lot of dry eye stuff out there, but it just because like maybe the industry sort of shifted to focus on some other things a little more doesn't mean that this space is not growing. It's like so many exciting things coming up. So lots to look forward to. And we got to keep following you to learn like what to kind of look at now, or what to look out for. So, I'll stay in touch with you to hear what's coming up next and what I need to bring into my practice.
Feelings mutual.
Yeah, well, fair enough. So there's usually a couple of questions that I like to ask. For like a few years there, I asked the same last 2 questions on every episode. And then recently I sort of transitioned away from it, and I started asking another new question. But because this is the first time you're on, and I've been wanting you on for so long, I'm going to ask all 3. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on a little bit more of a personal conversation at the end here. So, but before we dive into that, I want to just ask, like, how can people connect with you? Where can they find you and learn more about you?
We're on LinkedIn, my first and last name. We're on social media, just putting in our practice info. I've actually combined my practice practice handles to incorporate some of my own personal content, which I think a lot of patients and colleagues have really appreciated. It's mostly things about dry eye and the eye space, but from time to time, I'll throw in some photos or videos of me and my family and our son. And I think that resonates with our followers. But we're on LinkedIn again, my name, Instagram, Beverly Hills Optometry, TikTok, I believe it's the same handle, Beverly Hills Optometry, and then YouTube as the @ Dry Eye Guru.
@Dry Eye Guru.
Yeah.
On YouTube. Got it. Okay. So you're everywhere, right? Or you could just Google Dr. Kambiz Silani as well. You'll find him easily. But that's great. That's perfect. And I highly recommend any of our colleagues out there listening, if you know Cam a little bit, or if you're not too familiar, please look him up. And there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn in a lot of different ways. And like I said, we just tip of the iceberg today on a few different topics. How he built his practice, how he started consulting, what kind of marketing stuff he's done. These are all things you can learn more about if you follow him a bit more and reach out. Honestly, one of the nicest people in the industry. So definitely worth connecting. So now these last few questions. Okay. I want to start with the newest one first. The one that I'm like really trying to make a thing for my podcast. It's called You're Welcome. So your son is still little, so I don't know how many Disney movies you've watched, but there's a Disney movie called Moana. Have you watched it? Okay.
He loves it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Awesome. So you've watched Moana. There's the character Maui, and sings a song, You're Welcome. And it's sort of a tongue-in-cheek, is sort of a egotistical, like, you're welcome. I did all these amazing things for you, right? So this is your chance to provide us with like one really big, impactful, powerful quote or some statement about your, something that's going to help me and the audience just to be better just from hearing you share this one piece of information. And I'm going to say thank you. And you're going to say, yeah, you're welcome. So Dr. Kambiz Silani, let's do You're Welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Please share. Take your time if you need a second, but please share one powerful thing, one quote, one amazing piece of information that can help make our lives better.
Something I had on my Facebook for the longest time was Helen Keller's quote was, life is a daring adventure or nothing at all. And that's really resonated with me, is putting yourself out there. Travel as much as you can, interact with as many people as you can, try different cuisines, talk to someone that you may not normally interact with. You never know what you may learn. A few of those Tony Robbins events, it was really incredible. Yeah, there were a lot of high profile people that were there, but sometimes I turn and just start talking to a random person. And one of the interactions was with the founder of Airbnb. Wow. And you just never know who they might be, what they may be able to share with you, what kind of value they can bring to your life. And being vulnerable in our practice and in life has been really helpful to me. I'll share personal stories, journeys that I've dealt with, whether as a family or in my own health journey. We got to talk about this very recently, that I had a kidney transplant secondary to a genetic issue. And that has really changed my perspective on life. Yes, working hard and having all the things that we have materialistically is fantastic, but creating memories is really important. And so we want to instill as much of that into our sons as possible. Yes. And so.
Amazing. Share that quote with me one more time.
Life is a daring adventure or nothing at all.
Life is a daring adventure or nothing at all. Amazing. There's no room for doubt. There's no gray area. Totally. All in or nothing. I love it, man. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kambiz Silani, for sharing us with that one piece of information. I love it.
You're welcome.
Hey, it's okay. It's okay. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yes, you did it. I was about to prompt you, but you did it. Amazing. Thank you. All right. That's awesome, man. Thank you. That's really powerful. Okay. Now, the other two questions, if you've listened to the podcast before, you may be familiar with these already. But number one, if we could hop in a time machine and go back to a point in your life that was a difficult time, what piece of advice would you give to Cam at that time? And please feel free to share the moment, the experience, whatever, if you're open to share that.
Yeah, you don't have to please everyone. It's okay to say no. You don't have to please every patient, every person in your life, every fill in the blank. sometimes we get so consumed with, I'm one of those people who is a yes person, yes people. Like in grad school, I was on doing research. I was on the student body. I was in the honor society. I was putting on events. I was, all, et cetera, et cetera. And that is a lot of pressure. And, you get invited to this event. Let's go out. Let's go drinking. Let's do this. Let's do that. And now I've realized as I've gotten older, focus on the things that are going to improve your day. Just that compounded interest can work negatively or positively. So you can meditate in the morning, you can work out, you can spend time with family, or you can do the counter to that, all the things that can kind of negatively impact your day to day. And so that's what I would go back and share with my younger self is, work hard, do all the things, but it's okay to say no and take some personal time.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think there's probably many of us out there who probably need to hear that, right? You don't have to say yes to everything. You don't have to please everybody. You know what? You probably can't anyways. So there's no point trying.
Sometimes that was me trying to define myself through the things I was doing as opposed to who I was.
Right.
And we don't have to do. Sometimes we can just be, and that's okay.
I like that.
You need to fill every moment of the day.
Human being instead of human being. I love it.
Yeah, human being versus doing. Correct.
There's something else I'd like for you to share if you don't mind, because this thing is a really important part of your personal growth story. There's still one more final question that we're going to ask, right? But you mentioned just briefly there in the you're welcome answer there that you had some health struggles. If you're open to sharing a little bit more of what happened around that time and maybe what you learned from that.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy sharing this. At first, when it all happened, it was hard to deal with because it was weighed heavily on me. But I love sharing it now because you get to realize that we're not invincible. We're all human beings, and we all go through things, and we all have different cards in life. And my card happened to be going through kidney failure. So we have a genetic condition called polycystic kidney disease, and it accelerated a lot faster after an accident I had in Costa Rica on a dirt bike where I fractured my arm, ribs, and hip.
Wow.
It was in March of 2019. Yeah. And 6 months later, the kidney failure happened so rapidly that it led to dialysis. So I was going to dialysis 3 days a week, still seeing patients 3.5 days a week. And my wife got tested. She was a match, and she donated her kidney to me 6 months after being on dialysis. So that was March 2020. As we all know, that was when COVID hit. So we were in Cedars-Sinai Hospital here locally, March 3rd. We were out of the hospital March 10th, and then the world shuts down. And I used to tease that she completes me, and now she literally does.
She literally does. That's amazing. I was going to say, she truly is a part of you now, right? That's pretty incredible. She's
been a huge rock of mine through and through, supportive in my life, aspirations, whether personally or professionally. And that's something really important, is to have a wonderful partner that's there to support you and hopefully help you thrive and be the amazing human being you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And support you along that journey. So I've been on that patient side more than I would like. And so I've seen great physicians and great healthcare providers on my care, and I've seen some that were not so amazing. And thankfully, I've had way more wonderful folks on my team. And I realized that as healthcare providers, we need to bring more compassion to our patients and empathy. And through my journey, and I don't wish folks to go through some of the things that I did, but that helped me be a better provider. And there's always a silver lining in some of these things. And that dialysis phase of my life did bring me to a very low point, but you have to overcome things. And listening to great podcasts helped me through my journey, great audiobooks, and some of those folks who did persevere. And one of my life quotes is, "Persistence beats resistance."
I love it.
And just keep going. Keep moving forward. Life's going to throw things at you. You're going to get knocked down. You just got to pull yourself back up and surround yourself with really good people family, friends, coworkers, employees, employers, and
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry that you had to go through all that, but thank you for sharing it, because I think it's, I'm, learning from you sharing that story. I know anybody who's listening is going to find that impactful and take something away from it that's going to help them be better. So thank you. You know, that's pretty incredible. That's a pretty incredible journey. I'm glad you're doing well. I'm glad that your wife was a match. That's a pretty special bond that you two have now, even more than you would have had already. And just to echo something, like the kind of one of the key messages in there is like surrounding yourself with good people. I think it's a blessing, a real blessing to have a partner like you do. And I'm blessed that my wife is the same type of partner for me. Now I know not everybody's fortunate to have that, but if you can find that, that's powerful. It's immeasurable. It's incredible, the impact it'll have on your life. So shout out to my wife. Good job, Pam. All right. So last question. We're getting to the end here. How much of all these amazing things you've accomplished, man, all of them, how much of it is due to luck and how much is due to hard work?
Great question. Combination of the two would have to be my answer. We all hopefully have some level of luck that's thrown our way and certain opportunities that come our way. I feel fortunate that I got to grow up here in Beverly Hills and take care of patients in this area, but some may take that opportunity and not put in the time, not put in the hours, not put in the hard work to make it to where we've gone. And I still feel like there's so much more left in me, so much more that we can do. And there have been some pit stops along the way with the kidney issue, but I really feel like we can impact so many, and the hard work, putting in the hours is very important, especially early in your journey. As you put in that hard work, it's like momentum. You just let it go, and then it just kind of takes off on its own. So it's easy to put things off. It's easy to forget about something. It's easy to say, oh, I'm going to just go on social media and start scrolling.
Yeah.
It's hard work to put together a lecture. It's hard work to put in the hours to create some really great marketing content. It's hard work to spend the time with patients and educate them as far as what's going on with their eyes. It's hard work to listen to your team and really hear them out and what's going on in their personal lives. But that's all of that culminates to perfect recipe to being successful.
Yeah. Great answer. I don't think we, it's really interesting you say that, because I was like, I don't think I really thought about, or maybe we just forget like all those little things. That's part of the hard work, right? Sometimes we think of hard work as being one big hard thing that we did, but it's all the little things that we did that actually took effort not to be lazy. It took effort not to go on social media. It took effort to do that little thing, and all of that adds up, like you said. And sometimes it's like a, we call, hockey stick or whatever, this exponential curve, all of a sudden it just takes off. And sometimes people look at that as like luck. Well, you just did all these little things and all of a sudden it took off, but it was all those little things that gave you that opportunity.
Those late nights writing dry reports to patients and colleagues till 1 a.m.
That's hard work. That's definitely hard work.
Those hours add up.
Ken, thank you so much, man. Again, I feel like we barely touched the tip of the iceberg with some of these things, and I want to have you back on at some point to go deeper. But I really wanted to have a bit more of like an introductory, like Dr. Kambiz Silani for the first time on the 2020 podcast, kind of hit a few of the highlights. So thanks again, man. Thank you for coming on. Any last final words of wisdom you want to share with us?
Just a huge amount of gratitude for being here, being able to work with amazing colleagues, and would love to interact with any colleagues in the industry that want to elevate their practices, really want to help to impact more patients, especially in the dry eye space. So feel free to reach out, and I'll do my best to coordinate and collaborate. And one of the most gratifying aspects of my life has been becoming a father, and I kept pushing that off because the career was a big deal for me, and travel and brand and building our brand. But becoming a father has been one of the most exciting things in my life. And for a moment there, it was not going to happen because of all the health issues that we dealt with. And just so so honored that I get to be a father and join the dad club with you. And hopefully see that's our true legacy, is see what these little people will become. And hopefully we raise them in a world and in a space where they can continue to do good and make the world a better place.
100%. You know, I heard a quote a while back, and it really resonates much more now as a father, you know, as a parent, but I'm going to butcher it. It was, you know, it's sort of like our duty in life is to plant. Oh my gosh. Let me try and do it right here. The duty in life is to plant trees under whose shade we will probably never sit, right? Is to create something that's not for us, it's for somebody else, it's for future generations. That is powerful. I love it. And I think that you think about it now as a parent, you think about it because you're like, I'm not just doing this for me, I'm doing this to make sure these guys do okay, you know, when they're older. So that's one that I love for sure.
I love that. And that was really beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks again, Cam. Love it, man. We'll have you back on for sure. I can't wait to see you again in person. Please reach out to Dr. Silani. Honestly, one of the best people in the industry. I'm honored that I get to call you my friend and that we get to talk and to hang out, and I get to text you. I have your phone number, so haha to those of you who don't. I'm playing.
I feel like it's absolutely mutual, Harbier. Always great seeing each other, whether it's this way or in person, and just embracing. And
yeah, man, I love it. Thanks again, dude. Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody who's watching or listening to the 2020 podcast, Canada's #1 optometry podcast. I'll see you guys in the next episode.